I was in my 30s, and I didn't drink. I moved to a neighborhood out in the island where they had parties.
Dick Van Dyke turned 99 last month, and to the outside world, he seemed unstoppable. He still danced with his wife Arlene Silver, worked out 3 times a week, and flashed the same mischievous smile that fans have adored for decades. But now, for the first time, Arlene has spoken about the hidden struggles that come with living nearly a century. At 53, she revealed a truth many never expected: there is a curse to living so long, one that comes with loneliness, loss, and the heavy weight of memory. Behind the laughter and the limelight, Dick faces challenges few can imagine. From battling addiction, surviving near-fatal incidents, and enduring heartbreak, to losing friends and watching the world change around him, his life is a story of resilience, vulnerability, and remarkable talent. Today, we dive deep into the untold story of Dick Van Dyke, from his humble beginnings to becoming a Broadway and Hollywood legend, and the hidden truths behind the man who has made the world laugh for generations. Dick Van Dyke was born on December 13, 1925, in West Plains, Missouri. His family lived in a small, modest home where every penny mattered. His father worked as a traveling salesman for the Sunshine Cookie Company, often away from home, while his mother, a stenographer, carried most of the domestic responsibilities. From an early age, Dick discovered that humor could fill the gaps life left behind. He entertained himself with jokes, little stories, and mimicry, a habit that became the foundation of a lifelong career. When he was 7, the family moved to Danville, Illinois, a small town with about 30,000 residents. Danville offered familiarity and warmth. Neighbors waved from porches, kids played freely, and family gatherings were full of laughter and stories. Here, young Dick soaked up his environment. He copied voices, practiced jokes, and discovered a spark that would one day light up stages across the world. High school at Danville was small, yet it became a world of opportunity. Dick joined drama and music clubs, performing in small plays that gave him a taste of entertainment. Each performance taught him timing, expression, and the simple joy of making people laugh. At 18, Dick faced a strange shock. While applying for a passport, he discovered his birthday had been recorded incorrectly. His actual birth date was December 13, 1925, not the one he had celebrated all his life. For a moment, it felt like time itself had deceived him. Though minor, the revelation left an imprint, a reminder that life's truths sometimes arrive unexpectedly. Dick Van Dyke's heritage stretched far back, including Dutch, English, Scottish, German, and Swiss German roots. His mother's Christian upbringing influenced him, instilling a sense of morality and resilience. For a time, she hoped he might pursue the ministry, but high school drama shifted his path. The spark he felt on stage was undeniable. Unlike sermons, the stage offered an immediate connection with an audience, a direct reaction to his energy and humor. That moment became pivotal, defining his future. Life at home was lively, often chaotic. His younger brother Jerry, born in 1931, loved mischief. He'd hide Dick's homework, play pranks, and ignite moments of frustration and laughter alike. The energy between the brothers was a foundation for later collaboration. Even school played a role. Dick's classmates included future performers and creatives like Donald O'Connor and Bobby Short. Surrounded by budding talent, he realized early that the world of entertainment was accessible, if only he could seize it. By 1943, Dick graduated from Danville High. The world was embroiled in war, and he tried to enlist as a fighter pilot. Standing tall at 6 feet 1 inch but weighing only 135 pounds, he was repeatedly turned away for being underweight. Finally accepted, he wasn't trained as a pilot but became a radio announcer. He endured IQ tests, physical exams, and endless drills before being stationed in Toledo, Ohio, where he announced a show called Flight Time for the Troops. At Camp Crowder in Missouri, he and Phil Erickson created a silent comedy act, the Merry Mutes. Their daring humor even earned a near court-martial for poking fun at officers. That experience taught Dick the rebellious edge that would define his comedic style, irreverent, quick, and unforgettable. Returning home at 19, Dick faced the harsh realities of civilian life: no job, no money, and no direction. Selling vacuum cleaners door-to-door brought rejection daily, but it never diminished his belief in entertainment. In 1947, he met Margie Willett at a church dance. She was steady, conservative, and offered a vision of stability, while Dick dreamed of bright lights and laughter. Despite differences, they married on the CBS radio show Bride and Groom in 1948, heard by 15 million listeners. Their honeymoon ended in a relative's basement, broke but hopeful. Early marriage was tough. Dick and Phil Erickson formed a comedy team, while Margie bore the weight of their financial instability. Still, Dick kept pursuing radio, eventually landing in California, co-hosting Merry-Go-Round on KPS Radio, and living in a tiny tent trailer on meager wages. The pressures of early success, poverty, and relentless ambition led Dick toward alcohol. Small drinks turned into larger coping mechanisms. By the 1950s, setbacks, failed acts, and financial struggles intensified his reliance on booze. In 1955, Dick faced a false drunk driving charge, mounting debt, and near professional collapse. Yet, despite hitting rock bottom, he continued. The turning point came when Carl Reiner noticed him and offered an audition for Broadway, opening the door to a new stage, The Footman in 1958, and later, Bye Bye Birdie. Bye Bye Birdie in 1960 became Dick's breakout role. Despite almost no musical theater experience, his performance as Albert Peterson charmed audiences. The show ran for 607 performances and earned over $2 million, while Dick quietly donated a portion to charity. Broadway brought accolades, including a Tony Award for Best Featured Actor in 1961, but behind the scenes, he faced intense criticism, grueling rehearsals, and personal doubt. Support from mentors like Carl Reiner helped him persevere, shaping his resilience under pressure. Hollywood followed Broadway. In 1963, Bye Bye Birdie hit the big screen, but Van Dyke experienced a pay cut, highlighting studio ruthlessness. Success continued with Mary Poppins, 1964, though his Cockney accent drew criticism. Financial highs and lows, coupled with personal struggles, painted a complex picture behind his cheerful screen persona. During this time, Margie's dependence on prescription pills, coupled with Dick's alcohol issues, created a tense household. Fame offered opportunities but never fully shielded him from private challenges. From 1961 to 1966, The Dick Van Dyke Show captivated audiences, delivering 158 episodes and reaching millions. Van Dyke's humor, charm, and improvisational brilliance defined the series, while salary disputes, jealousy, and backstage tension reminded him that fame came with cost. Alcohol relapses, long work hours, and personal guilt weighed heavily. Yet, the show remains iconic, with Van Dyke's lines and physical comedy echoing through generations. Outside the spotlight, Dick's life was turbulent. For children with Margie, frequent absences and personal struggles created lasting guilt. His marriage gradually unraveled, leading to separation and eventual divorce in 1984. Relationships, love, and loss intersected with fame, shaping the man behind the smile. Addiction, depression, and near-suicidal thoughts marked decades of his life, yet Van Dyke ultimately overcame these battles through Alcoholics Anonymous and unwavering determination. From the 1980s onward, Van Dyke found new life in television, Hallmark movies, and voice acting. Murder 101, Diagnosis Murder, and later roles as Professor Jonathan Maxwell showcased his continued vitality, even into his 80s. Fans adored his dedication, performing stunts and maintaining energy far beyond his peers. Yet, behind the scenes, he faced aging, loneliness, and the loss of lifelong friends. The physical toll of decades in entertainment became apparent, even as he pushed forward. In 2006, Dick met Arlene Silver, and by 2012 they married. The 46-year age gap drew criticism, but Van Dyke defended her, saying she made him feel decades younger. Arlene brought companionship, love, and stability, a counterbalance to the isolation and grief that age often brings. In June 2024, at 98, Van Dyke became the oldest person to win a Daytime Emmy, for his role in Days of Our Lives. His speech reflected humor, wisdom, and the bittersweet reality of longevity. Arlene notes that living nearly a century carries a hidden curse, outliving loved ones, confronting mortality, and facing moments of vulnerability that fame cannot shield. Now 99, Van Dyke maintains a rigorous workout routine, dances with Arlene, and continues writing and seeking roles. Fires, evacuations, and health concerns remind him, and everyone watching, that age brings fragility alongside joy. Yet, his optimism remains. He cherishes family, embraces laughter, and values movement, music, and connection as the pillars of longevity. Dick Van Dyke's life is more than laughter and dance. It is a story of triumph and tragedy, resilience and vulnerability, fame and solitude. Behind the iconic smile lies a man who fought addiction, heartbreak, and the relentless passage of time, yet who continues to inspire, entertain, and bring joy at 99. His journey reminds us, even legends face hidden struggles, and the true measure of a life well lived is not just in applause, but in the courage to keep dancing, no matter the odds. Even as he approached the century mark, Van Dyke's influence on television remained undeniable. Shows like The Dick Van Dyke Show and later Diagnosis Murder shaped generations of performers, writers, and comedians. His physical comedy, impeccable timing, and improvisational skill became benchmarks in the industry. Younger actors often cited him as inspiration, yet few knew the sacrifices behind the charm. Long hours, repeated takes, and the constant pressure to entertain left scars invisible to the audience. Van Dyke's discipline and humility became a model for professionalism, proving that true artistry blends talent with relentless work ethic. Living almost 100 years comes with a unique form of grief. Van Dyke outlived nearly every close friend and colleague from his early career. Names like Edner, Norman Lear, and Carl Reiner are memories, not companions. Arlene Silver described it as a curse of longevity. Van Dyke often reflects on quiet evenings, realizing that many he once shared laughter with are gone. Despite a supportive family, the absence of peers weighs on him, a reminder that time takes people faster than dreams. For his 99th birthday in December 2024, Van Dyke planned a family gathering at his Malibu home, Vandy Manor. The celebration almost turned tragic when the Franklin fire forced the evacuation of over 20,000 residents. Nearly 4,000 acres burned, and several homes were destroyed. Van Dyke's pets had to be rushed to safety. Neighbors helped him escape, and later he expressed deep gratitude for the community's support. Even at nearly 100, life reminded him that danger and unpredictability never fully disappear. At 99, Van Dyke faces physical challenges that no amount of past fitness can fully prevent. He deals with joint stiffness, occasional fatigue, and the normal aches of advanced age. Yet, he remains disciplined. 3 workouts per week, daily walks, and dancing with Arlene keep him active. Arlene emphasizes that movement is his secret to feeling alive. For Van Dyke, physical activity isn't just about health, it's a connection to the energy of youth, a resistance against the limitations of age, and a way to maintain joy in everyday life. Despite the challenges, Van Dyke's family remains central to his life. Barry, Christian, Stacy, and Carrie Beth form a close-knit circle, extending into grandchildren like Chane, Wes, Carrie, and Tarun, many of whom pursue entertainment or creative work. Van Dyke often overcompensates with time, storytelling, and attention, driven by past regrets over absences. He mentors his grandchildren, passing on lessons about discipline, humility, and the importance of laughter. His family isn't just a support system, it's a living legacy of the values he cherishes. Arlene Silver's role in Van Dyke's life goes beyond companionship. At 53, she balances caregiving, friendship, and love while nurturing his remaining energy. They sing together, dance in the living room, and create daily routines that combat isolation. Her presence allows Van Dyke to feel 2/3 of his age, bridging the gap between almost a century of experience and the vibrancy of living fully. Without her, many of the challenges of longevity, loneliness, fatigue, and memories of loss, would weigh much heavier. Even at 99, Van Dyke has dreams that remain unfulfilled. He hoped for a reunion of the odd couple after Jack Klugman's death in 2021, a project that never materialized. He still writes essays, considers acting roles, and maintains a curiosity about the creative world. This persistence reflects a man unwilling to surrender to age, showing that passion can coexist with vulnerability, and that even legends harbor ambitions they hope to realize before their time ends. Living nearly 100 years also brings emotional weight. Van Dyke has witnessed multiple waves of personal and professional loss, from the deaths of colleagues to estrangement from early love Margie. Arlene describes moments when he feels diminished or too tired to travel. Yet, his optimism and determination persist. He celebrates small joys, family, dance, music, while acknowledging that age carries shadows no applause can erase. Van Dyke's reflections are profound. He speaks about gratitude, resilience, and the necessity of humor in surviving life's hardships. Loneliness, failure, and physical struggle coexist with moments of joy, creating a life rich in both challenge and fulfillment. He advises younger generations to cherish loved ones, pursue passions relentlessly, and maintain humor even in dark times, a philosophy forged over decades of triumphs and setbacks. Dick Van Dyke's 99 years encompass more than fame and accolades. They tell a story of personal struggle, professional perseverance, and unwavering charm. Awards, Tonys, Emmys, and Grammy recognition mark milestones, but the private battles, addiction, depression, marital strife, loss, paint a deeper portrait. His life reminds us that even the brightest stars carry shadows, yet the courage to keep smiling, dancing, and performing defines true greatness. Dick Van Dyke's impact on comedy is immeasurable. From physical slapstick to verbal wit, his timing and energy set a standard that comedians study to this day. Shows like The Dick Van Dyke Show redefine situational comedy, blending family life, workplace humor, and universal relatability. Younger performers like Jim Carrey, Steve Carell, and even comedic actors on Saturday Night Live cite Van Dyke as an inspiration. Yet, few realize the effort behind his charm, the endless rehearsals, stumbles, and personal struggles that forged the effortless smile audiences loved. For decades, Van Dyke maintained a persona of perpetual cheerfulness. He laughed on cue, danced flawlessly, and entertained millions. But behind the camera, life was far more complicated. Alcohol relapses, bouts of depression, and the pressure of supporting a family weighed heavily. Arlene Silver, his wife, describes watching him mask fatigue and pain with humor. The contrast between his public energy and private vulnerability highlights the reality of fame. Audiences see the performance, not the human behind it. Even into his 80s, Van Dyke continued performing. Hallmark movies like Murder 101 allowed him to showcase a gentler, mentor-like persona, connecting with audiences across generations. He insisted on performing his own stunts, from chase scenes to quick falls, even at age 80. This commitment reflects his unyielding dedication and love for his craft, a reminder that passion doesn't retire with age. Longevity comes with the bittersweet reality of outliving friends. Van Dyke has spoken about missing colleagues, mentors, and fellow performers who shaped his life. Names like Norman Lear and Carl Reiner, once constants, now exist only in memory. Arlene explains that this is one of the hardest parts of living nearly 100 years, the slow, unrelenting reduction of companionship. Yet, through family and love, Van Dyke finds connection, even as he mourns the absence of lifelong friends. Family has always been a cornerstone of Van Dyke's life. After decades of struggle with addiction, distance, and marital tension, he leans on his children and grandchildren. Barry's acting career, Christian's legal work, and Carrie Beth's television appearances form a web of support that keeps him grounded. Van Dyke openly reflects that he overcompensates with grandchildren, sharing stories, advice, and encouragement, trying to fill gaps left by his long absences in their early lives. Family, he believes, is both a balm and a legacy. Even in his late 90s, Van Dyke continued to achieve milestones. Winning a Daytime Emmy at 98, Dancing with Arlene, and writing essays show that creativity and vitality are not bound by age. These triumphs aren't just awards, they are symbols of resilience, proof that a life full of ups and downs can still produce extraordinary joy, laughter, and influence, no matter how long the journey. Approaching 100 forces reflection. Van Dyke acknowledges his physical limitations, the fragility of health, and the impermanence of life. Yet, rather than fear, he embraces gratitude. He speaks softly about missed opportunities, lost friends, and the passage of time, but he balances this with joy for the moments he still experiences, dancing, singing, storytelling, and watching his family thrive. Humor has always been Van Dyke's lifeline. From childhood in Danville to Broadway, Hollywood, and Hallmark, comedy allowed him to navigate pain, uncertainty, and failure. Even in moments of despair, hospitalizations, divorces, and addiction, he relied on laughter as a shield and a bridge. Arlene notes that even in quiet, difficult days, he finds ways to make her smile, proving that humor can carry us through nearly any hardship. Fans of all generations feel a deep connection to Van Dyke. Letters, messages, and social media shout-outs remind him that his work has touched millions. Yet, he understands that admiration can be double-edged. While public love validates decades of effort, it cannot replace the intimacy of friendship or the warmth of family. He has learned to cherish both equally. Despite age, Van Dyke remains active creatively. He writes, auditions, and seeks projects that challenge him. This perseverance is not just ambition, it is an embodiment of the belief that creativity is a lifelong pursuit. He reflects on past mistakes, missed opportunities, and successes alike, using each experience to shape the stories he tells today. The stage, screen, and life itself are ongoing performances, and he continues to participate fully. Even with decades of resilience, Van Dyke admits that aging comes with its own undeniable challenges. Arlene Silver has spoken openly about the curse of living nearly a century, the loneliness that comes as peers pass away, the physical limitations, and the reminder that time can't be paused. For Van Dyke, mornings are slower. Joints ache after decades of dancing, performing, and stunts. He feels the exhaustion more sharply than ever before, but he refuses to give in. Movement remains sacred, walks, light workouts, and dancing in the living room are his lifelines. Each step, each stretch, is a small victory over time. Living through almost 100 years has given Van Dyke a perspective few can imagine. He reflects often on gratitude, grateful for family, for love, for a career that touched millions, and even for the struggles that shaped him. He shares quietly that humor has been the glue holding his life together. Laughter wasn't just entertainment, it was survival. In the darkest moments of addiction, marital strife, and career uncertainty, the ability to find comedy in life's absurdities kept him going. This philosophy has become his guiding principle. Life may be harsh, but a well-timed joke or a shared laugh can make it bearable. Even in his late 90s, Van Dyke hasn't abandoned the stage. Small theater productions, guest appearances, and special performances allow him to feel alive in ways no other medium can. Each curtain call is a reminder of his journey, from a shy boy in Danville imitating family voices to a Broadway star commanding the stage. The lights, applause, and energy of a live audience revive him, proving that passion doesn't retire with age. He tells Arlene that stepping onto a stage, even briefly, feels like reclaiming a piece of youth lost to time. Van Dyke's legacy is more than awards, Tony wins, or Emmy accolades, it's the lives he has touched. Fans across generations write letters and share stories of how his performances inspired them. Many remember him not just for comedy, but for showing that perseverance, kindness, and humility matter. Yet, this legacy comes with a weight. The responsibility to uphold a lifetime of achievement, to maintain his public image, and to continue inspiring, can be exhausting. He admits that sometimes it feels like a performance even off stage, balancing personal vulnerability with public expectation. Family remains Van Dyke's anchor. Arlene's love, guidance, and companionship provide stability, while his children and grandchildren offer connection and purpose. Barry's work in television, Christian's law career, and Carrie Beth's creative projects all remind him that the values he nurtured, hard work, humor, and resilience, continue in the next generation. Van Dyke openly acknowledges past regrets over missed time with his children due to work or personal struggles. Now, he channels his energy into storytelling, mentoring, and spending quality moments with grandchildren. He wants them to remember not just the fame, but the humanity behind it. Fame has always been a double-edged sword for Van Dyke. While he has been celebrated for decades, the spotlight has also exposed vulnerabilities, conflicts, and personal struggles. Pay disputes, industry politics, and critical failures taught him that recognition often comes at a cost. Yet, he treasures the impact of his work. The success of Mary Poppins, The Dick Van Dyke Show, and Broadway productions brought joy to millions. These achievements, he notes, are meaningful not for money or awards alone, but for the way they touched people's lives. This realization shapes how he approaches life now, with gratitude, humility, and a focus on meaningful moments rather than accolades. What makes Van Dyke remarkable is his refusal to retire from creativity. Even approaching 100, he writes essays, considers acting roles, and experiments with new projects. The drive isn't about fame, it's about the love of creation itself. Arlene explains that this spark has always defined him. From silent comedy acts in the Army to Hallmark movies at 80, Van Dyke's energy comes from the desire to express, entertain, and connect. Creativity, he believes, is eternal, as long as one remains willing to try, fail, and try again. Van Dyke approaches mortality with honesty and courage. He acknowledges that each year carries physical limitations, losses, and reminders of impermanence. But rather than fear death, he focuses on life, on love, laughter, and the moments that matter. He speaks to Arlene about the fragility of time and the importance of leaving a positive mark, not just on screens, but in hearts. His philosophy is clear: while life is finite, kindness, humor, and creativity can ripple far beyond a single lifetime. Arlene Silver's presence has been transformative. She keeps him engaged, happy, and mentally sharp. Together, they dance, sing, and share quiet evenings reflecting on the past. Van Dyke credits her with helping him feel younger than his years. Their bond is proof that love can defy age, bringing warmth, laughter, and purpose even as life narrows opportunities. For Van Dyke, partnership is not just romantic, it's sustaining, healing, and life-affirming. Van Dyke's story offers lessons for all generations. Perseverance through failure, humor as a survival tool, and the importance of connection shine through every chapter. He emphasizes that success is not a straight path. Mistakes, heartbreak, addiction, and doubt are all part of the journey. But facing these challenges with resilience and maintaining joy, even small joys, defines a life well lived. Even with fame, awards, and decades of experience, Van Dyke finds joy in everyday moments. Singing with Arlene, playing with grandchildren, and walking along the Malibu coast remind him that life's beauty is often in simplicity. He smiles often, not for the cameras, but because these moments are real. The happiness in small gestures, shared laughter, and simple acts of kindness is a thread that weaves through his nearly 100-year life. Dick Van Dyke's legacy extends beyond television, film, and theater. It resides in the laughter of audiences, the mentorship of younger actors, and the strength of family bonds. His life shows that enduring challenges, maintaining humor, and giving love freely create ripples that outlast fame or fortune. Even at 99, he continues to influence, inspire, and teach, reminding the world that age is not the end of creativity or purpose. Looking back, Van Dyke sees a life rich with highs and lows, love and loss, laughter and pain. Each chapter, from the humble beginnings in Missouri and Illinois, through Broadway and Hollywood, to late-life triumphs with Arlene, paints a portrait of perseverance. He tells Arlene and family that living fully, laughing often, and embracing every challenge has been his secret. Age may bring shadows, but the light of connection, humor, and creativity can shine brightly until the very end.